Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Almost Gameday. As always, I'm your host, Sean Green. Thank you guys for coming back. So, obviously, this is a bit of a different look. 3 people on at one time. That's very unusual for my show, but again, we're trying something new each week, and what better way to do a brand new thing for my show than bring on Robert and Alex from HTF to talk about something that's honestly, I don't know what to say. It's very confusing. It's very disheartening. The NFL, it keeps getting announced almost every day, guys, that there's a new COVID positive test. You have Cam Newton on, Friday saying that he has COVID. Patriots fly to Kansas City on Monday, play on Monday, and they played very well. But the whole point is then after that, you have Stephon Gilmore get positive. And then let's not even talk about the Titans, who have 23 positive cases. Now, obviously, the picture that comes out about them practicing when they're supposed to be in quarantine. Let me start with you, Robert. The NFL's got a problem on their hands. What does the NFL have to do? What does the NFL have to do to make sure that these are the only positive cases that we're going to get in the NFL season?
Well, I mean, it's impossible, I think, to be, 100% perfect and trying to crack down on teams and stuff like that and ensure that they don't spread and they don't have an outbreak. It's very similar to what happened with the MLB early on in the season with the Miami Marlins, going to Atlanta. There was a lot of rumors that they went clubbing and stuff like that. They went partying, had a huge outbreak, had staff test positive. A lot of people talking about, oh my God, the season's going to shut down within 2 weeks. We're done, it's over. And they pulled through. After that initial wave, they had one other team, I think it was the Phillies or something like that, test positive. And after that, it was pretty smooth sailing for the MLB. They didn't have a lot of positives. So I think for the NFL, it's just to crack down on some of these teams that are perhaps breaking protocol. And that's what it seems like maybe the Titans were doing, with those photos circulating of practicing when they're not supposed to be. If you can limit it to that team, because the Patriots positive test came out after Cam Newton and nobody additionally tested positive. I think that those test results came out yesterday, and they were fine. So, I think right now it's a one-team outbreak, and they just got to make sure that the Titans don't get around, some of these other teams and start spreading it. They need to limit it to just the Titans and make sure they get their act under control.
Well, I think that's the problem, Robert. And I think when you look at it, right, you tested all the Patriots after Cam Newton. Every one of them came back negative. The NFL wants to play that game so much. Again, that's revenue for the NFL. That's a big-time game, Patriots-Chiefs. They fly out that same day on Monday, play the Chiefs that Monday night, then fly back home to New England, all in the same day. Then it gets reported the next day, Stephon Gilmore has COVID. So, Alex, does the NFL really care about player safety at this point? Because if I'm the NFL and I care about player safety, the Patriots are not flying to Kansas City on a Monday when you know that a virus takes days to circulate. So does the NFL really care about this player safety?
At all. And I think we've kind of known that for the last few years. It's not a player safety thing. This is a money thing. If they truly did care about player safety, the Titans would be done for a few weeks. The Patriots would not have played the Chiefs on Monday. But at the end of the day, this is a money thing. They need the money. They want the money. They're greedy. And I get it, right? Money drives all. That's what makes the league run. But at some point, you do got to put the players' health first, and they're not doing that at all.
Now, Alex, so again, we keep talking about the Titans. The Titans are the worst case scenario for the NFL. Because every couple days it looks like, because you have, again, if you don't know about the NFL rules, guys, the NFL rules with the COVID cases is you need to have 2 straight days of nobody being positive after you had somebody being positive. Then you can go back in the building and start working on game plans and stuff like that. The Titans, they get so close. They go a day where they have no positive cases, and then the next day they get 1 positive case. So now that those pictures are circulating, Alex, what is the NFL going to do against these Titans? Is this a potential loss of a draft pick? Is this loss of money? Or is this basically taking a loss so that they don't screw the schedule up more?
Honestly, I think you got to do all of it. You got to drop the hammer so teams follow these protocols, because if you don't find them, lose a draft pick and potentially forfeit a game, teams are going to continue to do shady stuff behind the scenes like the Titans did, and they practiced when they weren't supposed to be. So until the league does that, I think stuff like this is going to continue to happen if teams have outbreaks.
So, Robert, let's think of it in a way, say another team has another outbreak. Let's just say 2 or 3 more teams. So you have the Titans and 2 other teams have an outbreak where you got about 20 people that get COVID in the organization. How is the NFL going to handle that? Because you looked at how hard it was just to make sure, or the Titans became really easy because the Steelers and them had a perfect kind of bye week area where, they can move the Steelers game up 1 and then they could play week 7. What is the NFL going to do with this schedule if you have multiple teams that have an outbreak? Is that the case where they're just going to say you have an outbreak, you forfeit games? Or because I don't know how they're going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it might be one of 2 things. You mentioned, forfeiting a loss and stuff like that. If it is a team-caused outbreak where it is negligence, like it seems to be on the case of the Titans, you do have to, I think, forfeit a loss because it is your fault that you're doing it. It's nobody's fault but yourself. You're the one going out there and, causing that outbreak and bringing it back and spreading it. So that's one way I think you can deal with it. Obviously, I think it's a little bit easier in the NFL to control this stuff because unlike the MLB where, you do have these bye weeks where you can make them fluid and you can move them around and stuff like that if you have to. The only other thing I can see if you're not going to, if you're going to do a forfeit a loss or you're not going to do that, is to extend the season, add an extra week on and basically have, teams finish up their week 16 and then other teams have to go into let's say a week 17, a week 18 and have to, play extra weeks. I mean, that's the only other thing I can see. So between fluid bye weeks and perhaps extending the length of the regular season or extending the length of the playoffs and, maybe not even having the Super Bowl in February, having it later. That's probably all options on the table for the NFL. I think they want to finish out the season. I think the players and probably the teams want to finish out the season. So it's tough, but you have to work around it.
That's actually a good point, Robert, because the NFL actually, it was reported that the hotels they usually book for the Super Bowl are booked for 4 weeks. Usually that's not the case. The NFL usually books all of those things for about a week and a half, 2 weeks. So maybe the NFL was planning on a potential outbreak at some point to where they would have to extend the season. But Alex, Robert, last and final question for both of you. If you are an NFL player and you're seeing all these outbreaks right now, can you basically say, you know what, this is too much right now, I'm just going to go home and be with my family? Or do you continue to play this season? Because right now, that's 4 teams that have had a positive COVID test. Or no, 5 teams. And it doesn't look like it's slowing down. You're going to see positive COVID tests probably for the rest of the season. If you're an NFL player, do you put your family's life in jeopardy and say, I'm going to play this season?
Personally, no. I wouldn't have played from the jump. But if I did play and now all of this is happening, I'm out. I'm not risking that because if I'm an NFL player, I'd probably be fine while I had COVID, but we don't know enough about the after effects of COVID yet. And if you're the Bills, like I'd be really upset because under the current COVID plan for the NFL, the Bills wouldn't get paid if there's no game. So this is messing a lot of people's money up, not just the league as a whole.
And then Robert, would you play if you're a player?
I think it's all risk management. Other people have a different interpretation of what risk is. Would I risk it? Maybe, it really depends on what's at stake. If I have a family and I have, elderly parents or something like that to go home to and I'm taking care of them, probably not. But if I'm a younger person, mid to late 20s, early 20s, maybe I do risk it just because that's what I think a lot of these players would rather be doing instead of being cooped up in the house. But, it's all risk management. And I think that's what you see. And there's a lot of athletes that think, yes, this is what we want to do. This is what we'd rather be doing. We want to play. And there's other ones who say, no, I'd rather just be with my family. So it really comes down to interpretation. I know that sounds like a cop-out, but it really comes down to, who feels comfortable with what. Some people, they're like, I'll take my chances with it. The risk for younger people, healthy people, it's not that great. Other people say, I just don't like the uncertainty. I don't know what's going to happen if there is after effects, heart effects and stuff like that. they don't know, so they'd rather be at home. So it really depends on the person. It really depends on the player and what their family situation is, what their health situation is, and really what, their feelings on it is.
This is going to be a fluid situation, guys. Every week, your favorite team could not play. You're seeing it before our eyes. The Titans. This is going to be probably 2 straight weeks. Obviously, we don't know for sure, but it's looking like 2 straight weeks they're not playing. Patriots. If they get a positive test, there's a good possibility they don't play on Sunday. This is a fluid situation. Luckily, it's been reported that Cam Newton, Stephon Gilmore are asymptomatic. So again, there's different rules for asymptomatic people where you only have to be in quarantine for 5 days and then get 2 false tests after that. But it's really disappointing. And I think every morning you wake up and hope you don't see something on Twitter about another player testing positive, because it kind of takes you out of the season. It does. For a second there, it felt like normal football. And now every day it just takes away from that season a little bit. You can just tell there's something different and there's something else on everybody's mind than just football. Alex, Robert, I appreciate you coming on. Robert, stay on with me. Up next, we're going to be talking LeBron's legacy. If he wins tonight, if he wins the finals tonight, where does that put him? What does that mean for LeBron James' legacy? Stay tuned to Almost Game Day.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated chance, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back, okay? Always locked in, I don't got time to lax. Saying he the best, he could take a lap. Batted 1,000 when you check the stats. Boy, is you ready? You ain't gotta ask.
Welcome back to Almost Game Day. Again, 3 guests. Robert's joining me again. But there's so much going on in sports right now that I feel like I need to get more people's perspectives. So as you know, NBA Finals tonight, Game 5. We brought on Kyle Dewitt to come talk about LeBron's legacy. If he wins this game tonight, obviously, if they might lose, obviously. But I'm going to bet and say that the Lakers win tonight. So we're talking LeBron's legacy. Kyle, let's start with you. If the Lakers win tonight, where is LeBron in the all-time greats? Is he number 1 now? If he wins tonight, does he pass Jordan finally in people's eyes? Or is he still, mid-tier top 10?
I still say that he's second. I don't see him close to Michael. I do think that he's surpassed the likes of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Magic Johnson. But the people that say that LeBron is better than Michael Jordan might as well just be living underneath a rock. I mean, yes, LeBron James does have he has surpassed Michael Jordan in most playoff statistics categories, points, rebounds, assists. But that was a completely different era back in the 1990s, and it's a very more fast-paced basketball now. And after game 3, whenever the Lakers lost and LeBron left the court 2 minutes before the game, that just put in my mind even more that Michael Jordan is a better basketball player than LeBron James.
Okay, well, in that sense, all right, before I swing it to Robert, when you're a competitor, I think if you go back to those Michael Jordan days, yes, you can shake hands, but there was many times where, listen, if you're in a playoff series, why are we shaking hands in game 3 when, if the series is over, go shake hands? So did that set a nerve with you when he walked off the court?
Well, it's not even that shaking hands. If you're a competitor playing in a basketball game, you play until the final whistle. You don't give up with 2 minutes left. Yes, you are down by 12, 13 points. But if you say that you're the greatest basketball player of all time, you need to play till the final whistle. You need to give your team the best chance possible. And without LeBron on the floor and it's just Anthony Davis, it doesn't even give you a chance. And it just shows that he gave up in that game.
Robert, I want to throw it to you. You're a Lakers fan, right? Did you get that sense from LeBron when he walked off the court?
I mean, that's kind of LeBron's attitude with stuff like that. He is a competitive guy. When things don't go his way, he does get frustrated. That late in the game, the Lakers weren't coming back. It is what it is. It doesn't, make me upset as a Lakers fan. I see that as he's determined to go out the next game and get the win, and they did. And that's what you need. You need a big response, and he had a huge game 4. He was probably the most important person on the court in game 4, next to Contavious Caldwell-Pope. So, I think LeBron is just that type of guy. That's his attitude. It rubs a lot of people the wrong way. That's why they don't like him. But, that's why a lot of people love him. He's a gamer. He's a guy that just when things go right for him, he's the best player in basketball. When things go wrong, he gets frustrated. He gets the attitude up, and that's what it is. But he's always been like that. So it's nothing new. I think at this point, if you're picking on things to look at with LeBron, you either don't like him or you like him. That's the kind of personality LeBron is as a basketball player.
Now, Robert, again, you're a Lakers fan. So LeBron comes to the Lakers. He's only been on the Lakers for 2 years. Where do you see him in the likes of Kareem, Michael, Kobe? Where is he for you on that list?
I don't think personally, if I had to make a Mount Rushmore of Lakers players, it's Magic, Kareem, Kobe, Shaq. That's your 4. And you could make an argument for Wilt Chamberlain. Obviously, that's going way back, but that's your 4 of the Lakers' greatest players of all time. Right now, even with LeBron potentially winning a championship tonight, I don't think LeBron gets on Mount Rushmore. I don't even know if LeBron will get his jersey retired. I think it's going to take, LeBron winning another title with Anthony Davis, which is going to be hard to do, especially as LeBron gets older. But, I think it is incredible what LeBron has done, how he's turned this team around. Just 2-3 years ago, they were talking about building around Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram. Now they're building around Anthony Davis and LeBron James and whatever other cast of characters they have on that team that people think wasn't good enough, and they clearly are. So it's been an incredible turnaround, and that's pretty much all thanks to LeBron signing with the Lakers. So absolutely, he, I think, gets an honorable mention in terms of Lakers history. But when it comes to Kobe and Shaq and Magic and what they did, the titles they won, the legacy they cemented in both the Forum and the Staples Center in Los Angeles, it's unprecedented. And I don't think he's anywhere near that yet. But that's okay. That's okay.
So, Kyle, obviously, Game 5 tonight. What do you think the Heat need to do to stop LeBron from getting another NBA Finals championship? What do the Heat need to do? Hopefully Goran Dragic can play. We don't know for sure yet. It looked like Bam, he looked good, but he didn't look like his usual self. You could obviously see there's something else wrong with Bam. What do you think the Heat need to do to keep this series running?
Well, the thing that I've noticed in this series and the whole entire playoffs is that the whole entire Heat persona, they run their offense through Jimmy Butler and their perimeter players, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson. Those are the guys that need to step up tonight. I do believe that Jimmy Butler is going to come out because he's shown all finals that he's probably the best player on the Heat and probably the third best player on both teams on the floor. And he's the one been carrying them through these first 4 games. But I think Bam does what he has to do. He's been leading the Heat in points per game, rebounds per game, assists per game in the conference finals, and he's been doing his thing all playoffs. But whenever Tyler Hero struggles, whenever Duncan Robinson struggles, whenever Jay Crowder struggles, that's whenever the Heat struggle. It's those perimeter guys that really need to step it up tonight if they want any chance to win. And I don't see it because those guys are still young. Duncan Robinson is a second-year player. Tyler Hero is a first-year player. Kendrick Nunn needs to step up too, but he's a rookie. I just don't think that they're ready for the spotlight yet, and that's the reason why this Heat team is struggling.
No, there's no question. And my take on it is the Heat remind me a lot of the Celtics. A lot. Just much younger. And I had a big issue when Jimmy Butler came out right before Game 4 and said, "Oh, we figured you out. We figured you out." I knew right when Game 4 started, I said that is not going to be good for the Heat. Because LeBron, it's almost like that, I don't want to say it, but Mamba mentality. It's, we're going to take whatever you say and use it to our advantage. And Jimmy Butler, for better or worse, has not played in big games. This is the biggest stage Jimmy Butler has ever been on. So the fact that he came out and said that to LeBron, Robert, do you think that ended up hurting the Heat and ultimately will lose the Heat the series?
Well, you don't like to just, say that that's the only reason why the Lakers step up and stuff like that. But definitely, I think the Lakers stepped up in Game 4 in response to that. And you've seen it in previous series. Russell Westbrook was chirping a bit during that series. They shut him down. They shut the Rockets up in 5. They did it to Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray was talking after hitting a big 3, and they got their 1 win. They beat them in 5. Happened to Portland. Damian Lillard was talking. They beat him in 5. So it just seems like it's a trend at this point where if you mouth off to the Lakers, and listen, I'm not one of these traditionalists that's like, oh, don't talk trash, don't get hyped up after a big basket or a big shot. No, that's an old mentality, I think. But no, it definitely fuels guys on the court when you start talking trash to them and you're still up in the series. The Lakers were up still 2-1 in the series, and really it was a close game 3. The Lakers tied the game late and then ended up, just kept turning over the ball like they've done the past few games. So no, I think the Lakers just came out in response and they shut Jimmy Butler down. He had nowhere near 40 points like he did in game 3. So yeah, I think the Lakers definitely fed off that. They fed off that sort of energy that the Heat were throwing at them. And, you saw even Tyler Hero do the little, the lip smirk and stuff like that. Both guys didn't have great games. So it's a tough, it's tough. You can't talk early because especially against a team like the Lakers will make you pay for talking.
Will definitely make you pay. Kyle, your thought on the game tonight. Who do you think wins? Do the Lakers pull it out, or do the Heat let it continue?
I think that the Lakers are going to run away with this game late. I think it's going to be close up through the first 3 quarters, but then LeBron and Anthony Davis are going to step up whenever they're most needed. And another thing I want to bring up from what you were talking about earlier, I think that the most undervalued part about the Lakers team is their team defense and their perimeter defense, because they have 5 people on the floor that can switch in the pick and roll and play really well. I mean, you've seen it all series. Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero, most of their shots come off down screens, going to the top of the key and then shooting shots off the dribble or off the screen handoff. But it's just there's 5 people on the floor that can guard the perimeter, especially when you have Anthony Davis at the 5, LeBron at the 4, and then you run the 3 guards of Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Rajon Rondo, and sometimes even Alex Caruso. All 5 of those guys play great team defense, and I think that's the most undervalued part of their team, and that's the main reason why they are up 3-1 in these finals right now.
That's actually a good point. When you can hold the Heat to under 100 points with the way that they're shooting the ball, that's very impressive. The Lakers just seem like they're hot right now. Like they're winning each series by 5 games usually. They're scoring about 100 points each game. And LeBron and Anthony Davis, even on an off night, they had a bad first half last game, and it didn't even matter because they had a good second half. And for lack of a better term, you have the Cavaliers when LeBron's on the Cavs, right? And LeBron's on the Heat. And you have your core players, right? You have your Dwayne Wade, your Chris Bosh. And then on the Cavs, you have your Kyrie and Kevin Love. But all of the supporting cast, let's be honest, wasn't, championship level. And that's usually the case with LeBron. Now, when you look at the Lakers, you've got a bunch of good supporting cast members that could win you games. Alex Caruso, Kyle Kuzma to a degree. I know Robert doesn't like Kyle Kuzma that much, but to a degree, Kyle Kuzma can help. Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee. These guys can help you win championships. So the Lakers, credit to Rob Pelinka, credit to the Lakers front office because they put the right people around LeBron. And obviously we will see tonight if the Lakers can pull it out. It'll be a spectacle, so make sure you tune in tonight to see who wins. All right, Kyle, Robert, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. Up next, this is going to be an interesting segment for me. We're talking baseball with Johnny Jackson. It should be a fun one, so stay tuned. Welcome back. Like I said, one of my best friends. We love to talk baseball, as you know. Host of Take Me Out to the Podcast, Johnny Jackson. So how you doing?
I'm doing great. I know you've been to maybe one baseball game, and that's including the Little League game where you quit after you started crying.
See, that's not true exactly. I have been to one major league game, but I played a little bit of baseball in my time. I wasn't very good. Like, we don't need to get into that, but, I was more of a basketball guy. So obviously, I wanted to get you on. There's so much happening in sports right now. That's why there's so many HTF people on. We talk football, basketball, and finally we're getting some baseball on. So I want to get right into it. The playoffs are in full swing. We're going through them. It seems like 5 games every single day. Like it's crazy. All right, so obviously you're a Dodgers fan. We see the Clayton Kershaw jersey in the back on your wall. He is a fanboy. It's okay. Johnny, the Dodgers kind of look like how they've looked the last couple years in the playoffs. They look so dominant, and they look like they can beat anybody. But then they get to the World Series, and they kind of crumble. What is your take on this year's Dodgers team? And what do you think their ceiling is? Do you think this is finally a World Series winning team?
So yeah, in 2017, I did feel like the Dodgers were significantly better than the Astros. They lost, obviously, the cheating scandal kind of puts a hamper on that. But, you have to play the games, have to win games. 2018, Dodgers were outmatched, easily outmatched. The Red Sox were a miles better team. They were the best team in baseball. I just wanted the Dodgers to push it to 6 games so we weren't embarrassed. This year, Justin Turner's talked about it. Cody Bellinger's talked about it. Even Kershaw's talked about it. The Dodgers have been missing a leadoff hitter who can set the table and can hit lefties. And that is exactly what they got in Mookie Betts. That's exactly what they signed him for. That's exactly what he's been. He's been the spark plug for this offense, swiping bags. And the one thing that I will say about Mookie Betts, he makes base running and defense look so easy. You have guys like Derek Jeter who are talked about as such defensive wizards when he's a terrible defender. Then you have Mookie Betts, who makes the hard plays look easy. Derek Jeter made the easy plays look hard and made the average plays look hard. I've never seen Mookie Betts make a defensive play or base running look hard, and it's incredible. Derek Jeter is a no-doubt Hall of Famer. He's a definite Hall of Famer, but his defense is overrated. One of the best hitters ever, one of the best shortstops ever, one of the best people ever. But don't get me wrong, Derek Jeter was a below-average defender for his entire career.
Well, there you have it, folks. Derek Jeter's below average, I guess. Wow. That's, again, we're talking to a Dodgers fan, guys. So let's remember that. But I agree. The Dodgers look poised and ready to go to the World Series. But in your view, who out of the National League could give the Dodgers some problems?
I think it's the Braves. I did think that the Padres could be an entertaining series, but after Dinelson Lamet and Mike Clevenger went down, they tried to bring Clevenger back, couldn't get through 2 innings, which sucks. I want my teams to beat teams at their best, and the Braves can give the Dodgers a fight. They've got Max Fried and Ian Anderson at the top of that rotation. Max Fried had a kind of crappy last postseason start, but the Braves rotation isn't as deep as you'd like it to be. Their bullpen is really good at the top end, but those last couple of guys in the bullpen are kind of shaky, but their offense is incredible. If there's a team that's going to stop the Dodgers, it's the Braves.
Let's move to the American League. You have the team that, yes, everybody says cheated, the Houston Astros. They're in the playoffs. First of all, would they have been in the playoffs if it wasn't this expanded playoff this year?
No, they would not have been.
Okay,
they would not have sniffed the playoffs.
So they wouldn't have sniffed it, okay? They're looking good in the playoffs. I don't know what it is. They're starting to look like they found a footing. What in the baseball world? See, I'm not on baseball Twitter. I don't know. I do know people hate the Astros. What will happen to baseball Twitter in the baseball world if the Houston Astros get to the ALCS or the World Series?
I don't necessarily know if it's an uproar. Obviously, they're a really good team. They have really good players. And it's just such a shame that they felt like they had to cheat in order to win. That sucks, right? Because you have guys like, I've never seen a player just take a complete 180 in public perception like Jose Altuve has done over this offseason. He was, the short guy who showed these little kids, doesn't matter how big you are, you can be an MVP, you can be a World Series hero, you can be a playoff hero. And now he's one of the most hated people in baseball. Carlos Correa got a lot of A-Rod vibes, right? Got a lot of A-Rod comparisons coming up. Now he's just as hated as A-Rod was when he was playing. It sucks. And a guy like George Springer, the guys who I feel really bad for are guys like Greinke, right? Guys like Garrett Cole, guys like Michael Brantley, who either signed or traded with the Houston Astros before all this scandal came out. Even a guy like Yordan Alvarez. He wasn't cheating. He wasn't up in 2017. He was like 17 in AA. And they're facing a lot of the brunt of this, and which they shouldn't be, which it sucks, but that's the team they're on. That's the situation they're dealt. And they're also being paid a lot of money to play a game. So it comes with the territory, but it still sucks to see that.
So let's move to one of the most notarized teams in the MLB, the New York Yankees, right? Everybody looks at that roster and says it's arguably the best roster on paper when you look at all of their. Yeah, a top 3 roster.
Tell me when they get 2 good above average major league starting pitchers and we'll talk about it. They've got Garrett Cole, who, at worst, second best pitcher in baseball. I'll give him that. Garrett Cole is a stud. Like, he's amazing, pitched like lights out in the playoffs, but he sees G-Man Choi, right? Randy Arozarena is the father of that team. You say the Steinbrenners own the Yankees? No, it's Randy Arozarena, and it's G-Man Choi, and it's Kevin Kiermaier, my mom's favorite player, one of the most handsome men in baseball. Just absolutely should be like 0 for 27 in this series. He's not. He's hitting home runs. He's hitting singles. One of the best gloves in baseball. Yankees are poverty.
I'm watching this Yankees team, and again, it seems every year they're the preseason favorite. They look like they're going to make a big run. They're World Series bound. Then they get to the playoffs, and there's always that one team. It was the Astros for years. Now it seems like it's the Rays. The Rays completely made them look like the minor league team in the regular season. And I hear a bunch of people saying, oh, well, they were really injured. The Yankees didn't have Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton. Now those two are healthy. And it still kind of looks like the Rays just have the upper hand. So if the Rays beat the Yankees in this series, which it looks like they are, what are the Yankees going to do in this offseason? Is it hey, we're just going to keep paying these guys and hope one year we'll get it? Or do the Yankees really need to look in the mirror and say, is this team the team that can go and win this World Series?
Well, it's definitely not in the bats, right? The Yankees do have one of the best offenses in baseball. DJ LeMahieu is a free agent at the end of this year. They're probably going to need to re-sign him. But also, all their rookies, Aaron Judge, the Gleyber Torres, the Gary Sanchez, they're going to need to start paying those players more money in arbitration. But, they traded for James Paxton, expecting him he doesn't have to be the Cy Young, obviously, but he has to be an above average caliber starting pitcher for them. And also, the format of this playoff series is completely against the Yankees, right? You got back-to-back games, no off days in between. And that is perfect for a team like the Rays, a team like the Dodgers, teams with very deep pitching staffs and deep bullpens. The Yankees don't have a very deep pitching staff. Ottavino has regressed in the bullpen. Tommy Kahnle had to get Tommy John, so he's out for the season. Tommy Kahnle is a very underrated part of that bullpen. Chapman, Betances got a lot of love. Chad Green gets a lot of love. Ottavino gets a lot of love. Tommy Kahnle was the rock of that bullpen and their best reliever down the stretch last year and for a lot of this year. And it's a shame. They're just not built for this year. They need to get a starting pitcher. The market for that this year isn't great. You got Marcus Stroman and Trevor Bauer, who says he only wants to sign 1-year deals, so it's not exactly a long-term investment. But honestly, maybe if I'm the Steinbrenners, if I'm a Yankees fan, if I'm Brian Cashman, Trevor Bauer in a 1-year deal looks pretty appealing.
It'll be interesting. We'll see. That we have a bunch of teams still in the hunt. Hopefully your Dodgers, I don't have a dog in the fight, but for you, I hope the Dodgers do well. But
you're just saying that to everybody, Sean. You're breaking my heart.
Hey, you never know. Hopefully Kershaw doesn't choke. That's what everybody says, that Kershaw chokes. But we're not going to get into it. We need to end the segment. So thank you, Johnny, for coming on. Up next, it's everybody's favorite segment, Touchdown Picks of the Week. You want to make some money? You want to get your football knowledge better? Come on back. All right, welcome back. Finally, my Touchdown Picks of the Week segment. For all of those who are actually keeping up with my record, listen, last week, I just want to say one thing. This COVID thing is going to ruin my picks. Last week, I went 7-7. I picked the Patriots to win and cover. If I knew Cam Newton wasn't going to play, I would have picked the Chiefs to win and cover. That would have been 9-5. But I don't take outs in this thing. I don't just say, oh, what ifs. I picked the Patriots to win and cover. I need to live with that. So I went 7-7. I'm 36-20 on the year. That's solid, okay? That is really good. I'm going to try to get a bounce back week this week. Let's get started. Raiders versus Chiefs. First of all, there's going to be, this week you're going to see a lot of big spreads, and you'll see where I kind of go with it this week, okay? So, Chiefs, Raiders. Listen, I don't understand how the Raiders are the underdogs by 13 points. The Raiders played the Chiefs pretty well last year, and John Gruden knows Patrick Mahomes to a degree. I think this is a bounce-back week for the Raiders. They played the Patriots good up until about the end of the third. They played the Bills good. They only lost by 7 to the Bills. I don't think this is a 13-point game. I think the Raiders come back. They make it a game. I do think the Chiefs ultimately win the game, but the Raiders will cover the 13. That's way too many points for the Chiefs coming off a game like that. So I'm going Chiefs win, Raiders cover. Cardinals versus Jets. Guys, there are 2 games I really want to bet on and tell you what I think, but I can't. I don't know if the Patriots-Broncos are playing, and I don't think the Titans-Bills are playing. If that was the case, I would be betting on those games. I would tell you about those games. But this is what we're stuck with. The Cardinals versus the Jets. The Jets don't have Sam Darnold. They have Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco hasn't played much in the past couple years. When he played with the Broncos, he was below average. I think this is a bounce-back game for the Cardinals. I keep betting on the Cardinals, and they keep disappointing me. The Cardinals are a good team, but again, they're still trying to learn. They're still trying to get their system down. They've got DeAndre Hopkins, who's coming off of an ankle. That defense is still serious. They're not playing like it, but this is a good front seven. They've got a couple good corners in the secondary. I think the Cardinals win and cover here. The Jets they're terrible. They're the worst team in the NFL. So I think the Cardinals win and cover the 7. Steelers, Eagles. The Eagles kind of had a fluke game. You know, you had the 49ers who are injured to teeth and nail. They don't have their players. And the Eagles came out and they performed, no question. But the Steelers' defense is something that Carson Wentz does not want to see. I think this is a rout. I think the Steelers destroy the Eagles, and I think after this game, the Eagles will look at themselves in the mirror and say, what can we do to win this division? The division that is so bad. So I think the Steelers win. They had a week of rest. Steelers win and cover the -7. All right, Ravens, Bengals. I like the Bengals. I like to bet on the Bengals. I think this team is a solid team. Joe Burrow's playing out of his mind. He's thrown for 300-plus yards in all of his games. I do think the Ravens win. Like, don't get me wrong. The Bengals aren't good enough to beat them. But I do, again, it's another big spread. I think when you look at Vegas odds, they love that, like, 2-touchdown lead for the Raiders and the Chiefs and the Ravens. I ultimately think that is, if you put the money for the Bengals, you're going to get what you want. If you're going money line, you go Ravens win, but spread-wise, take the Bengals plus 13. That's a lot of points. I don't think Joe Burrow's going to throw for over 300 this game. I think it's going to be like about 250, but the Bengals are going to put up some points. So I'll go Ravens win, Bengals cover the plus 13. Colts, Browns. I don't know why I keep fading the Colts, but I'm doing it this week. The Browns showed me a lot last week on offense. So I hate to say it, I do think the Browns win and cover that plus 1.5. This might be a trap game. I just haven't seen enough out of the Colts to be so confident in them. They're very short on the wide receiver position. You got Pittman, who's out for the year. That's a big, or not out for the year, out for a good couple of weeks. That's a big loss for the Colts. They seem like they're moving the ball. I just think the Browns are the better team right now. I think they can put up more points than the Colts. So I'm going as the Browns underdog win and cover the 1.5. Seahawks versus Vikings. Liz, it's again, you're seeing the theme. I feel like 7 is so many points. The Seahawks defense is not good. Jamal Adams isn't playing in this game. That secondary is already, in my opinion, the worst in the league. Now, you have Russell Wilson. He's going to put up points on that Vikings secondary. And I do, again, think the Seahawks win. I'm taking the favorites to actually win the games, except the Browns. But I do think the Vikings cover the 7. I think it's more of like a field goal type game. I don't see this being a touchdown win for the Seahawks. So let's go Seahawks win, Vikings cover. And then finally, Saints versus Chargers. Again, I'm liking the underdogs this week to cover that point spread. The Saints are the better team, but the Chargers put up a fight. So I don't know what else to say. The Saints win, Chargers cover the 7.5. The Saints only won by 6 against the Lions. The Chargers are a better team than the Lions, and they have a better quarterback playing right now. Justin Herbert's playing better than Matt Stafford, in my opinion, as a young player. As a young quarterback, Herbert's playing better. I'm going to go Chargers cover the 7.5. That also is a potential for an upset. I just don't like the Saints. I think they don't look that great. I thought they were. They're not. So I'm going Saints win, Chargers cover the 7.5. Make sure you take screenshots of all these because I'm not even going to remember all my picks. So that's the touchdown picks of the week this week, guys. Wow. Hopefully we'll get to see the Patriots-Broncos. That'll be a fun game, see who the quarterback is. And then I hope Titans-Bills. I'd love to see that game, but this COVID thing, man, it's changing the landscape of the NFL season. So we will see how that goes. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure, again, you follow the social medias. My social on Twitter, Hitting the Field. Make sure to like, subscribe, do all that stuff, whatever you do. Follow everybody on HTF. We put out so much content Monday through Friday, every single week. Make sure you continue to tune in. All right, guys. It's almost game day. Enjoy the games, guys.